All right, what I've done here is I've drawn a number line. And on the number line, I've put 0, I've put a half, I've put a whole, and then anything bigger than a whole is going to be going that way. What I want to do is I want to take our benchmarking fractions and I want to put them on this number line where you think they might belong. Um, Obviously, here's where our half would go. Here's where our whole would go. Anything more than a whole would be over here because that would be bigger than a whole. We still have our category between a half and a whole right here. And then we also have our category of less than 1/2. So I just picked one fraction that could fit in each group, and I want to place it in the right spot here. Okay. Um, let's start with 2/5. Okay. I know it's not a whole because a whole you would have all the pieces. 2 out of 5 is not having all the pieces. I know it's not a half because half of 5 is like 2.5. Okay, and 2 is half of 4, so it's not going to be half. So now that leaves us with more than a whole, which it's not going to be more than a whole because our 2 is smaller than our 5. We only have 2 pieces out of 5, so we don't have more than the whole pan. So could be more than half. It's not though because we already said that half of 5 is 2.5. So that leaves us with less than half. So our 2.5 or our 2/5 is going to go in this area right here between 0 and a half. It's less than 1/2. So we got that one off the list. 10/10. I can look at 10/10 and I automatically know that if I have 10 brownies or a pan is cut into 10 brownies and I have 10 of them, I've got the entire pan to myself. So this is going to go over the one whole category right there. Okay, 19/2. This 2 at the bottom indicates that my brownie pan is only cut into 2 pieces. Those are pretty big brownies. And it says I have 19 of those brownies. Well, the pan only has 2 in it, so obviously I've got more than a pan. 19 is more than 2. Okay, if this was a 2, I'd have the whole pan, but since it's 19, I have a lot more than the whole pan. So this is going to go down in our section where it is more than one whole. Okay. Next up, we've got 7/14. That's a pretty simple one. If the pan is cut into 14 and I have 7, 7 is exactly half of 14. So that's going to go right over the half. And my last one, 22/40. My pan is cut into 40 brownies. I have 22 of them. Exactly half would be 20. 20 is exactly half of 40. So if I have 22, I have a little bit more than half. So my 22 is going to need to go here. Now I can kind of see the order of what these can go in by benchmarking. Okay, 2/5 would be my smallest, then 7/14, then 22/40, 10/10, 19/2. Here's another example for it, and I'll probably do 3 of these. I'll probably do this one and 2 more. If you have a pretty good idea of where these fractions would go, why don't you just pause the video, put them on the number line, and then you can watch and see how you did. If not, just follow along here. My one whole on here is going to be my 3/3, because if I have 3 pieces out of the 3 it's cut into, that's going to be my one whole. 50/100 is going to be half, because 50 is half of 100, so I'm going to put this right here. 1/16. Half of 16 is 8, and we have nowhere close to 8 brownies. We only have 1, so this is going to be less than half. 3 1/4. Well, that's easy because I have 3 whole pans. Instantly, if I have 3 whole pans, that's more than 1 whole, so that's going to go down here, 3 1/4. And then 9/18. 9/18 is exactly half. 9 is half of 18, so that also needs to go on our half line right here. And the one I didn't have in this set was I didn't have more than half, but less than whole. Here are the 5 fractions for this one. If you think you can put these on the number line yourself, pause the video, put them on there, and then watch to see how you did. If you're more comfortable following along, please do that. All right, our fractions here. I'm going to go through and pick out the easy ones first. If I have 2 brownies in a pan and I get both of them, I get the whole pan. So that's going to be my 2 halves would make a whole. And that makes sense. 2 halves do make a whole. Okay, so that goes there. This one's another easy one. This pan of brownies is in one piece. So that means we really didn't cut it at all. It's just in one big old chunk. Okay. Now you have 2 of those big pieces, which means that you would have to have 2 pans of brownies instead of 1. If the one pan only has 1 piece in it, but somehow you have 2 pieces, that means you have more than 1 pan. So my 2 firsts is going to go down here. My 2/3. This one's a little bit tricky, just figuring out what half of 3 is. Half of 3 is 1 1/2. That's exactly, if I cut 3 in half, it's 1 1/2. 2 is bigger than 1 1/2. So that has to be more than half, but it's not quite a whole, because a whole in this case would be 3 out of 3 instead of 2 out of 3. Now we got our last 2. If you notice, I didn't put a half one on here, so we don't have one of those. But now I've got 2 that are going to fit in the same section, and we should be able to pick which one is even bigger out of those 2. These are clearly going to both be the less than a half section right here. Half of 20 is 10. 4 is less than 10. Half of 100 is 50. 2 is less than 50. So which one of these 2 is bigger and which one of these 2 is smaller? I should be able to tell pretty easily that 2 100ths is going to be way small and should go down here. If you think about it, if I have a pan cut into 100 brownies, those pieces are going to be pretty tiny, and I only have 2 of those pieces. If I cut a pan of brownies, the same size pan, into 20 pieces, the pieces aren't going to be big by any means, but they're definitely going to be bigger than these size pieces, and I have 4 of them. So that should go right there. Now if I look at my number line, 2 100ths is definitely the smallest, followed by 4 20ths, followed by 2/3, then we have 2 halves, and then I have 2 firsts. Alright, I put 6 of them on here to see how you do. Please go ahead and try this one on your own. Even if you haven't tried one on your own yet, try this one on your own. 6 fractions, put them on here where you think you belong, or where you think they belong, and then watch the video to finish up here. Alright, with the fractions, let's get the easy ones first. 4/8. 4/8 is half. Okay. Another easy one, 4/4. 4/4 is a whole. 4 out of 4 brownies, you have the whole pan. So we got those taken care of. Okay. Let's see, more easy ones. Let's see. Oh, this one's pretty easy. 4/6. If the pan is cut into 6 pieces, half is going to be 3. 4 is bigger than 3, so that is more than a half, but it's not a whole. Okay. Another easy one over here, 4/2 or 4 halves. 4 halves, if a pan is cut into 2 pieces, but somehow you have 4 pieces, that means you've got to have more than that pan will hold. So our 4 halves needs to go there. And then we have the last 2 to choose between. We have 4 90ths and 4 10ths. Both of those are less than a half. Both of them are. Okay. The way I think about this is 1 away from being half. 5 tenths is half. 4 tenths is 1 away. So this one has to be at least close to a half, but not quite. Whereas 4 90ths, we're not anywhere close to a half. 4 90ths, half a 90 is 45, I believe. So if we only have 4 of those pieces, 4 of those really small pieces, because if I cut something into 90, the pieces are going to be very small, I hardly have anything. So my 4 90ths should go down at this end.